So how much should you charge humbly for your first remote offer? In this video, we'll go through my transitions from 2020 to 2023. What was my starting hourly price? What was my ending hourly price? How I priced myself, and what I think today is a humble number when you're trying to target a company remotely, usually a company that's sort of bridging the arbitrage between India and the US. What you should charge when you're trying to get into one of these companies. Let's get right into the video. So the primary motivation behind the video is I'm now teaching a course. And my course, after people learn, people want to know how to get jobs. And then mostly the people that want to get jobs in my course are people who are targeting remote companies. What happens in remote companies, we all know, is that there is some arbitrage. So people feel, and like usually this is something I've promoted on my channel as well, is that you should charge slightly more, mostly in dollars. And that creates some unrealistic expectations. What happened in the course is I found someone really good. This guy is pretty decent at JavaScript, and I don't know why he bought the course. He's pretty good himself. And so I asked him if he's looking out. He's currently in college third year. He said he's looking out, which was great for me because the company that I work with was hiring. So I asked him his initial expectations of salary, and then I thought we'd go through the rounds. His message to me was, not that much. I am expecting between 100 to 150k US dollars. Now इसमें मेरा भी थोड़ा धक-धक होने लग गया, which is why I wanted to make this video, because even though I have sort of promoted 6 figures from India, which frankly is doable, I want to start with realistic expectations, especially if you're a fresher in college right now and targeting these companies. What number is sort of the number that's very convertible? And what I want to share very heavily here is the journey from 0 to 1 is much more difficult in remote jobs than the journey from 1 to 100. You'll see that in my transition as well. My first number was very humble, and the reason for that is this is that pushes you off the edge. This is that will take you from your on-site job to a remote job. This is where the other party has a lot of leverage. So you need to differentiate yourself, and you will differentiate yourself by, well, one of the things you have to do is underprice initially. And now I'll show you my transitions where I started from, and you'll see it's a fairly humble number. It was basically just enough to meet my Goldman salary. Slowly I increased the number, and the number that today I arrived at, which is a humble number to ask, is anywhere between 40 to 50,000 US dollars. If you're a developer, if this is your first remote job, or if it's your first job totally, if you're applying for a full stack role in some company, 40k to 50k is such a humble number. It's like, if you can build decent websites, if it's an open source project, create some contributions, or if it's like a proper on-site job, if you've given your interviews and you're doing fairly well. Of course, don't give this number out if you know the company can pay much more or if you're worth much more. But if this is the first time you're trying out, when a company recruiter, when the person who's hiring you hears this number, right, 40k US dollars, 50k US dollars, their eyes will light up. This is a very nice humble number. The salary is not a problem anymore. Again, I'm not saying you should underprice yourself. If you think you're worth 6 figures, go for it. But you'll see very soon that even I priced myself very humbly the first time. Slowly and steadily, we made our way up. Okay. So what's the number? What's the main conclusion of the video? Anywhere between 40 to 50,000 dollars, which is in Indian currency, it's around 30 to 40 LPA basically. If someone has to give you 3.5k to 4,000 US dollars as a developer, I think for the employer, it's a very easy decision. So that's why I arrived at this number. Now let's go through my transition history. So this is March 2020. I left Goldman in March itself. So I had my medical leave from Jan to March, and my official resignation was in March. March is when I started working for my very first client. Her name was Emily. She was in the US. I worked for her for 6 months. And what was my expectation? It was enough to meet my Goldman salary, maybe a little bit more. This is my very first sort of paycheck that came. So as you can see, that's $2,400 for 2 weeks of full-time work. 40 hours a week into 2 is 80 hours a week into 3 is 24. Exactly. Okay. So this was 80 hours of work, which is 2 weeks of full-time work. And she paid me according to $30 an hour. This amounts to 60,000 US dollars if you're converting it as an annual salary, which if you sort of look at it from India, it's like 42 LPA. And my Goldman salary was around 35. So this was more than what I was making, but I did not go out with a very outrageous number to her. I was fairly humble. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that I got the offer immediately. Before 30, I was pricing myself at 50 US dollars. And I did not get offers for like a month during February. March, as soon as I decreased the number to 30, I got my first offer. You will see it's very easy. It's like an exponential curve from here. But 0 to 1 is the most difficult bit, which is going from that Goldman offer to a remote offer. This is December 2020, $35 an hour, which means over a span of year, it was only increased by around 10%. But April 2021, $60 an hour, very quick transition in 4 months, almost double from what I was making before that, because this is when you start to get into the groove. You have multiple offers, you have a lot of leverage. You now have leverage to negotiate better, which is what I started to do here. And the next transition is sort of fairly big. This is April 2021 to October 2021. That's 4 months. And I went from 60 to 100, which is like, this is 200k US dollars or like 1.5 CR in Indian currency. So here is, as you can see, even though first year only 5% increase and then a lot of increase. Finally, August 2022 is when I stopped consulting and became like a full-time employee. My last hourly price here, my last job was $150 an hour, which is 300k US, it's like 2 CR plus. And this is pure cash, all cash, but very heavily focus on this. Focus on humble beginnings. This is not your final offer. This is your first offer. So whatever gets you through that door, get in. Of course, don't underprice yourself. Don't go below market, whatever. But I don't think 30 even today is a bad offer to start with, which is like 40, 50 LPA in India, which is a decent number to start off with. Finally, if you look at my 3-year transition, you'll see this thing exponentiates. If you're working remotely as a full stack developer, there is a ceiling. Ceiling for me has been around 300k or 150 US dollars. So you will hit that ceiling at some point, but it's very easy to reach that ceiling. The ceiling does not matter where you start from. You could start from 10 US dollars an hour. You could start from 50. You have to reach the ceiling. You will reach that in 2 to 3 years. So don't worry too much about the first offer. Even if it's slightly lesser, it's fine. The best way I have felt to increase your salary in remote jobs, rather than nudging your current employer for increments every few months, 10%, 20%, find new clients. Basically either hop around. Each of my transitions that you saw was a new company. I usually worked for 3-4 months. That was my consulting agreement. Then I would go to the next company. It's very easy to increase price when you're moving from one company to another. It's a fresh slate. But if you're working some place for X, it's very hard for you to ask for 2X there. So 2 ways to increase salary: either hop around a lot or do multiple jobs. The good thing is you can do that in consulting. In consulting, you can do 2 jobs, 3 jobs at the same time. I've logged 100 hours sometimes in 1 week. So it really depends on how much you can hustle. But these are the 2 easier ways I've seen. Like I've tried this a lot. I have tried hustling, negotiating with my company, increase whatever, 20%, 30%. Doesn't happen. And then slowly I realized, okay, let me do 40 hours here, let me do 40 hours in another place, and that's how I'll sort of make more money. And that's another thing, if you sort of work multiple places, right, that's when you begin to get leverage, because you realize, okay, I'm making 30 plus 30 from 2 places, so effectively $60 an hour I'm already making. Next company that you ask for, you'll ask for at least 60. So that's how you sort of go up the ladder. Start from 40, 50k US dollars, which is 30 to 40 LPA for full stack jobs. If you're doing deep tech jobs, then maybe not. But like if you're doing simple full stack jobs, I'm sort of in the position to employ now. And if someone comes to me, a good React developer, a good backend developer, and says, okay, 30k is what I want, 40k US dollars or what I want, or even 50, I'd be very open. I just hope that he has the right skills, and not even like the best skills in the world, but enough to put in 40 hours a week and have a decent sort of output. I'd be very happy to hire them. So yeah, keep that in mind. 50k US dollars, good starting point. There is no ceiling. There is a ceiling, but like it's very far away. Don't worry about that just yet. And yeah, that's all for the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.